Welcome everyone. In this video, we're going to go over the monthly plan for care process. This plan is a key tool in delivering personalized care to your clients and ensuring their needs are met in alignment with their individualized support plan or ISP. First, let's start by showing where the plan for care is on the portal. Navigating this section is essential, so make sure you know how to easily access it every month. This training video is designed to show you how to use the monthly plan of care for your clients. The monthly plan of care is due no later than the 5th of each month for each client. Each DSP is responsible for having the discussion with their client and guardian if needed to develop the plan of care for each month. The plan of care should be completed for every client that you work with and should be developed on shift. It is a required part of the DSP role and is subject to performance review. I'll show you what it is in just a second, but essentially the monthly plan of care tells us at the office how you and the client and possibly the client's guardian are planning to work on goals for the month and what you guys are going to be focused on while on shift. Since we are not able to be in the home with you, this allows us, this allows caseworkers and the state to ensure that we are all on the same page for what is happening on shift. So we're going to go ahead and log in. All right, so now we are at the DSP dashboard. You are going to scroll past the clock-ins and you are going to go here to plan of care and you are going to hit the most recent one. Typically this is going to be whatever month that we are in, but this is the most recent one that I have. All right, and now we are at the plan for care. Once again, this is due by the 5th of each month and you must do it for every client. So first things first, we're going to look at this first question. What goals will you be working on with the client this month? So while you're on shift, you need to sit down with the client and or the client's guardian and ask, what do we want to focus on? This could be an ISP goal that is already stated, or this could be something that is not an ISP goal. All right, so for this example, we are going to say that the client wants to learn how to cook. Typically, you will have more than just this one goal, but for this example, that's all we'll use. Are these goals listed on the client's ISP? I'm going to say no to show you a second pop-up. Why have I chosen these goals to work on? So something that you might be able to say is, this is the client's wishes. And you might be able to link this to a different ISP goal. For example, the client wants to learn how to live more independently, and this is one of those skills. Okay, now that we've got that filled out, how will you be addressing the needs to support this goal? So what this question is asking is, what will you do while you are there to help encourage the client to, for our example, cook more independently? Something that you might be able to say is showing them how to safely use an oven, how to safely cut food. You might also be wanting to educate them on food safety, for example, how to handle raw meat. All right, once that's done, the next question is, do you foresee any barriers to achieving these goals? Almost always, your answer needs to be yes. And the reason for that is we are human. We are not perfect. We are never going to ease into something perfectly. If you don't think that on the surface there's not going to be any issues with your client, think about it from a different aspect. For example, my client might like trying new foods and really like the prep work, but doesn't really like working around a cluttered kitchen and can sometimes get overwhelmed. That might be a barrier that the client has, working through that overwhelm. So then to answer the question would be requesting a meeting with an education specialist so that you can go over some strategies to best support your client in the kitchen. So something that may be useful would be requesting resources on making a cleaning checklist. Additionally, resources on how to best self-regulate, such as breathing exercises to reduce anxiety, could be helpful. All right, scrolling down, next is the comment section. This one is the only box that is not required. You can maybe put something that you are proud of the client for the progress that they have made, but that is everything for that plan of care, and we are going to hit submit. All right, and we are all done. Now that we know where to find the plan for care, let's dive deeper into what it actually is. The plan for care is a pre-planning tool. It helps you outline what goals you will work on with your client each month. These goals should be directly tied to the client's ISP. Planning ahead is crucial, and it's important to get input from the family, guardian, and client to decide which goals will be the focus for the month. Please keep in mind that the plan of care is due no later than the 5th of each month, which allows you to adequately prepare for the coming month and ensure all goals are aligned with the client's needs and the ISP. There are 4 required fields in the plan for care. The first one is the goals that you will work on for the month. The second is whether these goals are listed in the ISP. The third is how you will support the client in achieving said goals. And the fourth is any barriers that you foresee that may prevent the client from completing the goals. There is also an additional comments box that can be useful for details. When documenting goals, please remember that they should reflect the ISP. If a goal is not listed in the ISP, you will be prompted to provide additional information. Next, let's take a look at some good examples for the plan for care and compare them to poor examples. Understanding the difference will help ensure your documentation is clear and useful for everyone involved. First question is, what goals will you be working on with the client this month? For a good example on the left, the DSP says they will be helping the client learn how to navigate the grocery store, learn how to shop, and be able to complete payment. The client generally just would like to become more independent when it comes to shopping, and the DSP is hopeful that they can help the client reach this goal. Comparing this to our poor example where it just says shopping, while yes, the DSP is essentially teaching the client to shop, that essentially sounds like you guys are going shopping together. It doesn't really tell us what the learning experience is, how this relates to any goals. It's just not really a clear example. The other poor example is listing every goal on the ISP in detail. While yes, you should be working on the ISP goals, it's almost impossible to work on every single goal all at once. A better solution would be to work on 1 or 2 goals for the month and focus on those. And then when the next month comes, you can continue focusing on those goals, or you can switch it up and do some different goals. You can play around with it. But you should really only be focusing on 1 or 2. Moving on to our next question, are these goals listed on the client's ISP? If you tap yes, you can just move on. If you tap no, you'll be prompted to answer the next question, which is why have you chosen these goals to work on? Looking at our good example on the left, the DSP states that they feel that working on these goals will help the client gain independence over time and allow the client to grow comfortable shopping. The client and the DSP did discuss this goal together, and there was a discussion on how this goal would be useful in helping their client improve their skills. Let's compare that to our poor example, where it's just left blank or I don't know. If you get this question, make sure that you meant to hit no. And if you did hit no, you should know why. There should not be a reason why you don't know why you're not following the ISP. If there's no reason for you to be changing the goals, so if the client hasn't requested it or there hasn't been a discussion of requesting the goals, you should not be straying from those ISP goals. If the client did ask you to work on certain goals that were not on the ISP and you don't know why, have that discussion. Is there a specific question that you need answered? Is there concerns that you have? Have that discussion with your client. There is never a reason why this should be blank or I don't know. While we want goals to align with the ISP, there might just be some situations where the guardian and the family or the client asks you to work on an additional goal outside of the ISP. If the goal is within the scope of your responsibilities, you are more than welcome to work on it. All right. The next question is how will you be addressing the needs to support these goals? So going to our good example, the DSP says that they want to help their client make a grocery list and model/demonstrate using it at an actual grocery store. The DSP also wants to discuss a budget and practice paying at the cash register. These are all great examples to execute the goal of wanting to become more independent at the grocery store. Let's compare that to the poor example where the DSP leaves it blank or just says, explain how to shop. While yes, those goals in the good example are essentially explaining how to shop, it also consists of modeling how to shop. And then the DSP also mentions that once they feel confident in the client, they will gently start pulling back on how much modeling they will be doing and allow the client to take the lead. Filling this out with a one answer reply, like explain how to shop, basically just sounds like you demonstrate to the client how to shop once and then that was about it. And that's not really what we want to see. We want to see a detailed response with an actionable plan as listed below. The next question is, do you foresee any barriers to achieving these goals? Most of our clients do have some type of barrier to completing their goals, and this is why your role is so important in providing support. Before selecting no for the barriers, let's go ahead and take a moment to consider whether there are physical, emotional, or maybe some behavioral challenges that could impact the goal. It's important to reflect on the entire situation to provide accurate information. So, most of the time, the answer to this question should be yes. We are humans. We are not perfect. We are not going to understand something perfectly immediately. So, before answering no, just take the time to think it through. In this example, let's say maybe the client has a difficult time when it comes to loud noises, which can pop up at a grocery store. Sometimes the client lacks the motivation to actually leave the house to get in the car. There's a lot of different reasons that could be considered barriers, whether big or small. Moving on to the next question, what would be helpful to you? This question is just asking what kind of resources would you like, if any, and if there is anything that we can do to support you. In our good example, the DSP says that they would like to know the budget that the client has to work with and what type of list will work best. They also would like some guidance on when exactly they should scale back modeling to the client. So we would provide them with some resources. Maybe the education specialist would provide some insight, something along those lines. Saying nothing or leaving it blank is something that you can do, but we do want to provide you the best experience possible and we want to provide the best care to the client. So, whether your need is big or small, we encourage you to put it in the plan for care so that we can provide the best support. Lastly, the comment section. Do you have any information you feel is relevant to the goal? Maybe you can talk about how the client is excited to shop. Maybe you can talk about how the guardian is very supportive and wants to do their best to make sure that the client succeeds. Just any additional information you didn't get a chance to know previously. To summarize, the plan for care helps us pre plan our approach to client goals, ensuring that we provide the correct support every month. It is critical to involve the family, guardian, and client in the planning process. It is also critical to align the goals with the ISP and think carefully about any potential barriers. With accurate and thoughtful notes, we can provide the best care possible.